Welcome to Topic 11 of the MFPC RFP Module 2 series. This session focuses on SOCSO, the Social Security Organization of Malaysia. By the end of this session, you should be able to explain what SOCSO is, identify who qualifies for coverage, describe the benefits under both the Employment Injury Insurance Scheme and the Invalidity Pension Scheme, and articulate how a financial planner integrates SOCSO coverage into a comprehensive risk management program. Employees in Malaysia face a range of contingencies that can disrupt their livelihoods: workplace accidents, occupational diseases, and conditions leading to invalidity. These contingencies do not affect the employee alone. They impose severe hardship on dependents as well. Recognizing this predicament, the Malaysian government established SOCSO in 1971 to administer the Social Security schemes created under the Employees Social Security Act 1969, Act 4. SOCSO's main objective is to formulate and provide comprehensive Social Security protection for Malaysian employees and to promote occupational health and safety. The 5 strategic pillars that support this mission are: providing for human resource development, periodically reviewing the benefit structure, reviewing the benefit disbursement system, securing and strengthening the SOCSO fund through prudent financial and investment management, and promoting occupational health and safety among workers and employers. The SOCSO scheme classifies employers into 2 categories. The principal employer is the party who has employed the employee directly, undertakes the payment of wages, and handles all service matters. The immediate employer, by contrast, is someone who works for a principal employer or undertakes part of the principal employer's work through a subcontract. The immediate employer has direct control over the employees he employs. Both categories of employer who employ one or more employees are required to register and contribute monthly for all employees. Here is the critical point that students must remember. The principal employer is also liable to ensure that all employees employed by the immediate employer have been registered and their contributions have been paid. If the immediate employer cannot be located or has failed to register employees, the principal employer is held strictly liable for all contributions under the Social Security Act 1969. Under the Social Security Act 1969, an employee is defined as a person employed under a contract of service or apprenticeship. The critical wage threshold is RM 3,000 per month. An employee earning RM 3,000 or less must compulsorily contribute to SOCS. This threshold was approved by the Malaysian Cabinet on the 10th of September 2003 as a proposed amendment to the SOCSO Act. For employees earning more than RM 3,000 per month, 2 situations arise. First, employees who were previously registered and have contributed to SOCSO must compulsorily continue contributing, even if their wages now exceed RM 3,000. This follows the principle of once covered, always covered, preserving their accumulated rights under the Invalidity Pension Scheme. Second, employees who earn more than RM 3,000 and have never been registered are given an option to be covered, but both the employer and the employee must consent. All eligible employees must register regardless of whether their employment is permanent, temporary, or casual. However, 4 categories are exempted: government employees, domestic servants, self-employed persons, and foreign workers, exempted since the 1st of April 1993. An important age caveat applies: employees above age 55 who continue working are protected only under the Employment Injury Insurance Scheme, and only the employer contributes for them. For SOCSO contribution purposes, wages include all remuneration payable in money to an employee. The included items are salary, overtime payments, commissions and service charges, payments for leave, annual, sick, maternity, rest day, public holidays, allowances, incentive, shift, food, cost of living, housing, and payments made at an hourly, daily, weekly, piece, or task rate. The excluded items are employer payments to any statutory fund, for example, EPF contributions, mileage claims, gratuity payments or payments for dismissal or retrenchment, and annual bonus. Students should note that the distinction generally follows a logic. Regular, recurring payments that form part of the employee's expected income are included, while one-off or employer obligation payments are excluded. Once an employee has been contracted, the employer is required to complete Form 1, Employer Registration Form, and Form 2, Employee Registration Form, and submit them to the relevant SOCSO local office. The employee's name must be written exactly as it appears on the identity card, and both old and new IC numbers must be entered where applicable. Upon processing, SOCSO issues the employer with an employer code number used in all subsequent correspondence. The contribution formula is based on the monthly wage of the employee, classified across 24 wage categories. The employee's share is 0.5% of wages, and this portion funds the invalidity pension scheme exclusively. The employer's share is 1.75% of wages, covering both the employment injury insurance scheme and the invalidity pension scheme. Contributions begin from the very first month of employment. There are two categories of contribution. Category 1 covers both the employment injury insurance scheme and the invalidity pension scheme, with contributions from both employer and employee. Category 2 covers the employment injury insurance scheme only, with contributions from the employer alone. Category 2 applies to employees who are not eligible for the invalidity pension scheme, such as those above age 55. SOCSO provides protection through two distinct schemes. Shield 1 is the employment injury insurance scheme. It covers work-related contingencies, meaning accidents that occur during work, during commutes, or through occupational disease exposure. It is funded entirely by the employer. Shield 2 is the invalidity pension scheme. It provides 24-hour coverage against invalidity or death due to any cause that is not connected with employment. It is jointly funded. The employer contributes as part of the 1.75% share, and the employee pays 0.5% of wages. This is a crucial distinction. Shield 1 protects against workplace-specific risks, while Shield 2 operates as a broader safety net covering non-occupational contingencies. The Employment Injury Insurance Scheme covers three categories of work-related contingencies. The first is commuting accidents. These include accidents while traveling between the employee's residence and workplace, between the workplace and the place where the employee takes meals during an authorized recess, or on a journey directly connected to work. Commuting accidents are considered employment-related as long as the accident does not occur during a stoppage or deviation made for personal reasons. All commuting accident reports must be accompanied by a police report and a sketch map showing the accident location. The second category is accidents arising out of and in the course of employment, meaning accidents that occur at the workplace in connection with the employee's duties. The third category is occupational diseases, conditions contracted due to exposure to the work environment. The MFPC source provides two examples: hearing loss from excessive noise, and respiratory diseases or industrial asthma from dust exposure in sawmills, powder factories, or flower plants. The full list of recognized occupational diseases is found in the 5th Schedule of the Employees Social Security Act 1969. The medical benefit provides free treatment at a SOCSO panel clinic or any government hospital or clinic. The employee or a representative must present the appropriate form, an accident report, Form 21 for injuries, or occupational disease forms 68 and 69 where relevant. Treatment at a panel clinic must continue at the same clinic until recovery, unless the employee is referred to a government hospital. For serious injuries, treatment should be at the nearest government hospital, where the employee is entitled to second-class ward treatment. Specialist treatment is also provided at government hospitals. SOCSO settles the medical bill directly with the provider. The temporary disablement benefit is payable when a doctor certifies the employee unfit for work for not less than 4 days, including the day of the accident. The daily rate is 80% of the average assumed daily wage, subject to a minimum of Rm 10.00 per day. For employees whose monthly wage exceeds Rm 2900, the maximum daily rate is Rm 78.67. No benefit is paid for any day on which the employee works and earns wages during the period of medical leave. Permanent disablement benefit is payable when a medical board or appellate medical board certifies permanent disablement resulting from an employment injury. The benefit structure varies based on the assessed percentage of loss of earning capacity. If the permanent disablement is assessed at 100%, the daily rate is 90% of the average assumed daily wage, subject to a minimum of Rm 10.00 per day. If assessed at 20% or less, the employee can claim the entire benefit as a lump sum. If the assessment exceeds 20%, the employee has the option to commute 1/5 of the daily rate into a lump sum, while the remaining 4/5 is paid as a monthly pension for life. Importantly, the employee may continue to work while receiving the permanent disablement benefit. The constant attendance allowance is an additional benefit for employees with permanent total disablement. 100% loss of earning capacity, who are so severely incapacitated that they constantly require the personal attendance of another person. This allowance equals 40% of the permanent total disablement benefit rate, subject to a maximum of Rm 500 per month. Eligibility is determined by the medical board or appellate medical board, and payment goes directly to the benefit recipient. If an employee dies as a result of an employment injury, the dependents are entitled to the dependent's benefit. The full daily rate is 90% of the average assumed daily wage, subject to a minimum of Rm 10.00 per day. This benefit is distributed according to a hierarchical system of primary and secondary dependents. Among primary dependents, the widow receives 3/5 of the full daily rate for life or until she remarries, whichever occurs earlier. Children, including natural, dependent stepchildren, adopted children, and children born out of wedlock, receive 2/5, payable until age 21 of marriage, whichever occurs earlier. If the child is pursuing higher education, SOCSO may extend payment until completion of the first degree or marriage. A mentally or physically handicapped child who cannot support himself receives the benefit for life. The widower receives 3/5 of the full daily rate on the condition that he was wholly or mainly dependent on the earnings of his wife at the time of her death. Payment continues until remarriage or until he earns enough to support himself. If the widower is not eligible, the children receive the full 3/5 share instead. If no primary dependents exist, secondary dependents may claim parents at 4/10 of the full daily rate, paid for life, grandparents at 4/10 if parents have passed away, paid for life, and brothers and sisters at 4/10 paid up to age 21 or marriage, whichever occurs earlier. These secondary dependents must depend wholly or partially on the deceased employee's income at the time of death. The Invalidity Pension Scheme provides 24-hour coverage against invalidity or death from any cause not connected with employment. Invalidity is defined as a serious disablement or disease of a permanent nature that is either incurable or not likely to be cured, which causes the employee to be unable to earn at least 1/3 of what a normally able person could earn. The MFPC source lists several chronic conditions that could qualify: heart attack, renal or kidney failure, cancer, mental illness, chronic asthma, and similar conditions. However, merely having the condition is not enough. The employee must pass through a 4-step eligibility gateway. 1. The employee must not have completed age 55 at the time the notice of invalidity is received by SOCSO, though proof that invalidity occurred before age 55 and that employment had ceased at that time can be accepted. 2. The condition must be certified by a medical board or appellate medical board, or BOR. The employee must meet the contribution qualifying conditions, and then 4. The employee is eligible for invalidity pension. This is one of the most calculation-intensive parts of Chapter 11. There are 2 pathways to qualify for the invalidity pension and a universal baseline. The minimum pension payable under either pathway is Rm 250.00 per month. Pathway A, full qualifying condition. An employee meets the full qualifying condition through either of 2 tests. Math option 1, contributions paid for at least 24 months within the last 40 consecutive months preceding the month the notice of invalidity is received. Math option 2, contributions paid for at least 2/3 of the total months between the date the employee was first covered and the date of the invalidity notice, subject to a minimum of 24 months. If the full qualifying condition is met, the pension rate ranges from 50% to 65% of the average monthly wage. The calculation follows a formula. The base rate is 50%, and for every 12 months of contributions beyond the first 24, an additional 1% is added, up to a maximum of 65%. Pathway B, reduced qualifying condition. An employee meets the reduced qualifying condition if contributions have been paid for at least 1/3 of the total months between first coverage and the invalidity notice, subject to a minimum of 24 contributions. The reduced pension rate is a flat 50% of the average monthly wage. The invalidity grant acts as a refund mechanism for employees who do not qualify for the invalidity pension. That is, they fail both the full and reduced contribution qualifying conditions, but who have made at least 12 monthly contributions. The payout is a single lump sum, equal to the total contributions paid by both the employee and the employer for the invalidity pension scheme, including accrued interest. This is an outright payment. The survivor's pension is triggered in 2 situations. First, when an employee dies while receiving the invalidity pension, regardless of age, and second, when an employee who is not receiving the invalidity pension dies before reaching age 55 and has met either the full or reduced contribution qualifying conditions, regardless of the cause of death. If the deceased was an invalidity pension recipient, the survivor's pension rate equals the invalidity pension rate the employee was receiving. If the deceased was not an invalidity pension recipient, the rate is calculated the same way as the invalidity pension, 50% to 65% for full qualifying or 50% for reduced qualifying. The distribution of the survivor's pension among dependents follows exactly the same share rules as the dependent's benefit under the Employment Injury Scheme: 3/5 for widow/widower, 2/5 for children, and 4/10 for secondary dependents. The constant attendance allowance also applies identically under Shield 2, 40% of the invalidity pension rate, capped at Rm 500 per month for recipients who are severely incapacitated and require constant personal attendance. The funeral benefit is Rm 1500, payable when an employee dies as a result of an employment injury while receiving disablement benefit, while receiving invalidity pension, or before reaching age 55 if the full or reduced contribution qualifying conditions are met. Payment goes to the eligible next of kin. If there are no next of kin, it goes to the person who incurred the funeral expenditure. The actual amount paid is the lesser of the actual funeral cost, or Rm 1500. The rehabilitation benefit provides free physical and vocational rehabilitation to employees suffering permanent disablement or invalidity. Physical rehabilitation includes physiotherapy, occupational therapy, reconstructive surgery, and the supply of prosthetic appliances such as artificial limbs, wheelchairs, crutches, hearing aids, spectacles, calipers, and orthopedic shoes, including their repair and replacement. Vocational rehabilitation offers training in trades such as radio/TV repairs, electrical wiring, metal trade, refrigerator and air conditioner repairs, plumbing, tailoring, typing, and secretarial work. All expenses for both types of rehabilitation are borne by SOCSO. The education benefit is structured as a loan given to dependent children of employees who receive monthly benefits for permanent disablement, invalidity pension, dependent's benefit, or survivor's pension. The loan can be converted into a full scholarship if the child achieves excellent academic results. 5 eligibility conditions must be met. First, the child must be a dependent of an employee receiving one of the qualifying monthly benefits. Second, the child must be below 21 years of age and unmarried at the time of application, with an exception for children above 21 who are receiving a monthly benefit and continuing higher education while unmarried. Third, the child must be registered in a university, college, or institution of higher learning registered with the Ministry of Education, including institutions with twinning programs, on the condition that the degree is completed locally. Fourth, the child must not have received any other scholarship or loan from any other authority. Fifth, the family's finances must be demonstrably insufficient to support the cost of education. The loan covers registration fees, course fees, including laboratory and lecture fees, examination fees, compulsory student association subscriptions, and other expenses as determined by SOCSO, including subsistence, flight costs, books, instruments, thesis preparation, and practical training costs. SOCSO provides 2 appeal mechanisms for different types of disputes. Path 1 is the Appellate Medical Board, which handles disputes over medical board decisions regarding the assessment of permanent loss of earning capacity or the determination of invalidity. An employee who is dissatisfied with a medical board decision can appeal to the Appellate Medical Board through the SOCSO local office within 90 days of the date on the letter informing the medical board's decision. The decision of the Appellate Medical Board is final. Path 2 is the Social Security Appellate Board, which handles broader administrative disputes. If an employer, employee, or dependent is not satisfied with the decision made by SOCSO on any matter related to benefit approvals or claims, they can appeal to this board. Appellants can be represented by a lawyer, a trade union representative, or any person authorized by the board. This slide covers the appendix material from the MFPC source, the SOCSO's institutional strategies and policies. The strategic priorities include giving top priority to national and organizational interests, providing quality and economical services, improving staff skills and technology, maintaining fund viability, fostering goodwill and noble values, and cooperating with all parties involved in Social Security. The safety and health policy commits SOCSO to being a healthy and highly secured organization, with safety and health treated as a common responsibility. Specific commitments include developing staff training programs, instilling social values for personal safety, keeping abreast of safety standards and healthcare trends, conducting regular inspections of office equipment, reviewing plans for new locations against government guidelines, and ensuring every person understands their role in maintaining safety and health. The quality policy is a concise commitment to provide excellent and fair service to all clients through the continuous development and advancement of SOCSO staff. SOCSO's client charter sets specific turnaround commitments for processing claims and registrations. These timelines assume that all relevant information and completed claim documentation has been received. The 4 service level tiers are 15 days. Funeral benefits are to be paid to eligible dependents of deceased persons within 15 days. 2 weeks. SOCSO will reinvestigate and provide information on every complaint regarding benefit claims within 2 weeks. 1 month. Temporary disablement benefit, first payment, is to be paid to injured employees within 1 month. New employers and employees will be registered and issued their code/registration numbers within 1 month. 3 months. Permanent disablement benefit and constant attendance allowance, first payment within 3 months. Dependents benefit, first payment within 3 months. Invalidity pension, invalidity grant, and constant attendance allowance within 3 months. Survivor's pension, first payment within 3 months. This final slide brings everything together from the financial planner's perspective. The MFPC source states explicitly that it is pertinent for the financial planner to understand the detailed benefits available under the CCO schemes. The reason is straightforward. SOCSO benefits must be factored into the needs-based solution and risk management. The 3-layer pyramid on the slide illustrates the architecture of a comprehensive risk profile. At the base is the SOCSO layer, which provides automatic income replacement of between 50% and 90% for eligible severe contingencies. This is the foundation that every employed Malaysian already has. The middle layer is private insurance, the life, disablement, critical illness, which tops up the SOCSO base to fill gaps. The top layer is personal savings and wealth accumulation, which remains unburdened by catastrophic contingency costs, precisely because the lower 2 layers are doing their job. The financial planner's duty is to validate the base debt first. This means calculating the exact COSO benefits available to the client, then designing the private insurance layer to fill the residual gap. Over-insuring waste premiums, while under-insuring exposes the client to risk. A planner who ignores the RM3000 threshold nuances, for instance, might recommend coverage for an employee who is not even eligible for the full invalidity pension scheme.